Welcome to this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches. I'm your coach, Mike Wilkins, here with Coach Will Morrill. We are fresh back from a fight trip. Actually, just minutes ago, we got back in town from Cleveland, Ohio, where we had two of our own Stout PGH fighters competing tonight, and it was a good night for both of those young men. Will, let's jump right into it.
All right, so like Mike said, we were in Cleveland, and we were in a facility. It's like a sports facility.
It's like a sports complex. It's looks like there were basketball courts, indoor
beach volleyball. Never seen that before in my life.
The main area we were in, I saw some turf. The main area that the cage was in, I didn't really get a look, but I'm just sure it's just like more basketball courts or something.
Yeah.
And also Revolution's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very good fight gym out of Cleveland.
Yeah. So the only downside,
it was hot, dude.
It was spicy.
It was super hot. Yeah, it was. There was not definitely not AC. Ventilation was certainly not kicking to its capacity.
But you know what the upside of that is?
Easy warm-ups.
And
oh yeah,
like not being facetious, it literally makes it like way easier to warm up.
Yeah.
And we've had the opposite problem in the past.
Oh,
you know
lot.
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Especially if you're in like a casino that has like really like cold AC. Like sometimes you'll get a guy warm, and then like 10 minutes later, especially if you're like, because the thing is, when you get someone warm to fight, like you have to be ready in case like the fight before like is a stoppage, right? And depending on the venue, sometimes you have to like go from your locker room to somewhere else and chill there, and that's not always going to be like climate controlled the way you want it and stuff. So it's way better to have it really really hot than too cold. Easy warm ups. So we show up.
Easy warm ups. Actually, let's take it back a little further. So let's give you guys a rundown of our day. So we're supposed to be pickleballing. Will shows up to the courts. No bueno. 10 courts and a secret area that we're not going to tell you about because we don't want you showing up taking our court space like today. Completely packed. So we try another park. We go there. Courts available.
No net.
Took it as a sign. Was like, all right, let's go get some lunch and then we'll head up to the fights.
Which is a real bummer because pickleball is like my primary like rehab from neck surgery.
Yeah.
It's like...
Dude, real bummer for me too. I'm really into pickleball. I'm thinking about moving this podcast to more of a pickleball geared podcast, but neither here nor there. But on that drive, I get a call from the Cool, who's the matchmaker for a lot of different promotions. Mm-hmm. This one was in particular was Made Men, who I'm very fond of because very big fan of Angelo. Mm-hmm. But I get a call from her. Bryan Hess, his opponent, is like 5+ pounds overweight. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I kind of want to inform you guys. So these fights are in Ohio. I kind of want to inform you a little bit about the differences between some rules and regulations in Ohio versus like maybe some other states, including Pennsylvania. So let's say that you're in Pennsylvania and you're scheduled to fight an amateur fight at 155 pounds, mm-hmm. and your opponent comes in overweight. Mm-hmm. All right, depending on how much overweight they are, you can just be like, that's all right.
We'll take it.
We'll fight anyhow. Mm-hmm. Like I trained for it, want to fight. I don't think that weight advantage is going to, be that serious. Like, let's do it, right?
And you can negotiate it. So if he comes in 5 over and you're like, hey man, in the next 2 hours, if you can get 3 off, we're good.
Yeah.
Like you can do things like that.
Yeah, you can do things like that. The commission can also be like, no, dude, this dude came in way too over. This is too much of a disparity. We don't think it's in the safety. Fights off. In Ohio, you have to be within the weight class. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like if the fight's at 155, the fighters have to weigh between 145.1 and 155.0. No ifs, ands, or buts. Mm-hmm. So what is commonly practiced there this is amateur, by the way. On the pros, you can be like, oh yeah,
take some of his purse.
Yeah, he's 3 pounds over. I want $200. Let's go. Like, you know what I mean? But nevertheless, so in the amateurs, you have to be within that weight class. So how do you accept a fight with someone who comes in overweight? Well, you got to be smart about it, and they're smart about it. They know what to do. Like these matchmakers and promoters, they deal with it. You don't let the fighters officially weigh in, mm-hmm. right? You have them both test weigh in, and one's like overweight. You then go to the other one. You start the discussion. Hey, what do you want to do here? Okay. So Bryan's like, I don't know what to do. right? Like, or I don't even know if she talked to Bryan. She might have just called me straight off the rip, right? So she calls me. Bryan's opponent is like 160 something, right? This fight's supposed to be at 155.
He's not making it.
He's not gonna. I mean, I can have him start cutting, but like, he's not gonna make it. And like, so the writing's on the wall. So Bryan has two options. We can either nix the fight, or he can start to drink and rehydrate to make sure he now weighs in over 155, because then that puts this fight in the 170-pound category, as both fighters will weigh in between 155.1 and 170.0.
Now, Mike, there's an interesting fact that you haven't told anyone yet.
There is a very interesting fact. So Bryan was already kind of doing his coach a solid. So I don't know, somewhere along the lines there was a miscommunication between Bryan and myself, in which I believe Bryan was to fight at 155 pounds. I don't know if I was like talking to him about like, yo, like, you're ready, you've been training great. First of all, Bryan came back from basically a year out. He had an ACL surgery, towards ACL, about a year out, came back. He was in the gym a lot during that time, so big credit to him. That didn't go unnoticed. But like, you know, he's just like, he's just a great teammate. He's just somebody any coach would want.
Absolutely.
Any coach would want this kid on their team.
Great addition to the training room.
Great addition, you know, and he's also got like a lighthearted personality and stuff, as we'll talk about. He wore Hello Kitty.
It was fantastic. Dude, everything about it was awesome.
It was very fantastic. All right, but anyhow, all right, let's try to stay on topic here. Sorry guys, long day, right? Like it's like 11 p.m., right? We just got home. So Bryan, miscommunication. I must have been like, maybe I did say what weight, as in what weight do you want to fight? And he might have took that as in, what do you weigh? Right? Or something along those lines. You guys will get it. But he said 155, right? So I booked him a fight at 155, right? I'm like, all right, Nicole, I got an 0-0 155er. Ship me with an opponent. I was like, yeah, we'll take it. I tell Bryan, I was like, hey, you're going to get an email from Nicole with a contract. I got you a fight July 13th. This kid, he's also 0-0, you're 0-0, you know, 155 pounds. He goes, oh, I thought I would fight 145, right? And I was like, well, like, yeah, in PA maybe, like, you know, like, let's say I had you on a 247 card, weigh-ins are likely going to be day before, because you're probably going to weigh in with the pros. That's typically how it goes. Yeah, we would do a day before weigh-in. Like, for a day before weigh-in, yeah, 145. He goes, oh, okay. Well, that's cool. I'm already on weight. I weighed out of practice today at 153. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, yo, you are a same day 145. In Ohio, you weigh in at like noon and you fight that night. So like, you can't cut as much weight as you would for like a pro fight or an amateur fight that does have day before weigh-ins, right? Because you don't have the time for recovery and rehydration that you do.
And also, I think we should talk about this. 155 is one of those divisions where you start to get some monsters, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who, they're like, I'm too small to fight at 170. There's a 15-pound jump there. So even amateurs, you get guys who are like 172, 175, and
that's what. Yeah, you're like 175. Like if you're like, oh, I'm 175, dude, you're kind of too small to fight at 170. Kind of too small, because everybody fighting at 170 is going to be 185.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? Cut 20 pounds for day of weigh-ins?
Yeah,
like, can't
so
do
like
that.
You're like in a tough spot. But whatever. So Bryan should be fighting 145 for sure. Right, like he enters practice at like 155, leaves practice between like 152, 153. You know, like on a heavy day, he might find himself up at 157. You know what I mean? So he's definitely a 45er from here on moving forward. But I was like, bro, it's too late now, dude.
And also, like, Bryan's really good too. So like,
yeah, I had no worries.
Right.
I had no worries. And I was like, dude, just like do me a solid here and just like just do the fight at 155.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like being like, oh, I messed up, right? Like save your coach.
Yeah.
Right. So with that in mind, knowing that he's a 45er and this dude's missing weight at 155, and he's not like, oh, it was 157, 156. No, he's in the 60s.
Right. He's really tall too.
I tell Nicole on the phone, I'm like, dude, I was like, I don't know. And then I like kind of fess up, like, Bryan's a 145er. I messed up and put him in at 155, and I was like, hey, take one for the team here, you know? And I was like, so so I don't know, like, about like me, like trying to be like, yep, like you're fighting, you know? I was like, let me call him though, just make sure. So I call him and I'm like, hey man, I don't know. You're already up a weight, now you're going to be up 2 weight, blah, blah, blah. And Bryan's like, well, what do I got to do to still fight? And I was like, well, you'd have to weigh in over 156. And he goes, so should I just start drinking now? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, if you want to still fight. He's like, yeah, I want to still fight. And I got goosebumps, dude. I was all fired up. I started swearing at him. Like, we're on the phone. I started swearing at him. Like, yeah, like, okay, let's go. Let's fucking go. Yeah. And we're like yelling at each other. Like, yeah. And so he weighed in at like whatever he needed to be eligible for a 170-pound weight class.
Which is super cool because, like, there's guys who will try to find a reason not to fight. You know
oh, yeah,
I mean?
that would have been a good way out.
Right, exactly. Because, like, I mean, I've been there. I've been like, you know, I'm about to fight this dude, and I'm real scared. I'm like, oh man, if there was a way that I'd have to fight this guy, you know what I mean?
Oh, there's been times I'm like, man, I hope the power goes up.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, those feelings are very real, you know? And the fact that Bryan was just like, nah, dude, how am I going to make this work? Like,
so what can we do to make this happen? So that was really cool. So I thought that that's something that deserves, you know, being known, you know, because like that's a cool thing. Like this dude now, like based off of, you know, his performance tonight in the weight class in which he fought in, he's going to then become ranked in the amateur circuit in Ohio after tonight's performance. And he's going to be ranked as a welterweight.
Yeah. As
a 170-pounder. That's where he's going to be ranked. I probably won't let him fight 155.
Right.
Like, yeah, dude. I mean, he is a legit.
45.
He's not even a big 45er.
No.
He's like regular 45er, borderline like pro. Like if he stays the same size, I'd be like, you might want to consider 35. You know. So yeah, that's gonna be a pretty cool story for him. So should we talk about his fight?
I mean, I think that's the only logical next step. So we get him warm very easily, as we discussed.
Yeah. Get him warm very easy. You were finishing up Will, so I actually held pads, which is an incredible rarity.
Yeah, that was a very rare thing.
No, I don't be
doing that. Did a great job.
He should feel special. But I mean, we've already talked about his fight for about a million times longer than it lasted. 16 seconds.
Well, hold on, bro. You're still skipping steps.
What?
We're walking out, right? We get to the end. He hands me his shirt. I'm like, dude, this is a Hello Kitty shirt. Like,
I am skipping
it's like a
steps.
Pink Hello Kitty shirt. I'm
I
like,
am
dude,
skipping
you're
steps.
hilarious. And then
His shorts were Hello Kitty.
I know. I realized that like when he was in the cage.
Uh-huh.
And we're standing there. You're like vaselining him up. And then
you listen to his song.
I realized, I'm like, dude, he just walked out to his Raining Man.
Yeah.
Like, it was hilarious.
Hallelujah, it's raining, man.
Oh, dude. It was, like, everything about it is just hilarious, right?
Oh, dude,
so he gets in, right? His opponent gets in, way bigger than him.
Way bigger. Like, as you would expect.
Yeah.
Like, the kid weighed in the 60s. Bryan could be 145.
Right. And this dude's tall. He's, like, kind of jacked. Like,
and he was doing the like...
He was doing
the show. Yeah.
He was staring him down. Doing weird stuff with his mouth, whatever. He's like trying to. And look, here's the thing. Not all the time, but the vast majority of the time that you see amateurs do that, they're trying to convince themselves that they're tough.
Yeah.
So like we're like, dude, this is great.
I was like, Bryan. He's trying to convince himself right now.
Right. Yeah. Which also we should touch on this too. This kid was an independent fighter.
We're gonna dive into that, but let's
talk about the fight first then.
Let's talk about the fight and maybe even talk about Will's fight, then dive into that. Or I don't know. I don't care. Right. So let's talk about the fight. So they come out, they touch gloves. Whap, whap, whap.
Yeah. Bryan just starts teeing off.
Yeah.
And the kid's shelling up. And I was like really close because he threw like 6-7 punches in a row.
Yeah,
and like
boom, boom, boom.
Most MMA fights, you're gonna see like 2-3, and then some sort of disengagement. Otherwise, there's gonna be a counter coming, right?
Yeah.
And the kid's shelling it up, and I was about to be like, "Hey, like, don't just stand there. He's probably gonna like hit your back or something." And he just keeps teeing off, and I was like, "Nah, just keep doing what you're doing."
Yeah. So he just like cracks him with like 6 strikes, snaps his head down. Throws a guillotine on him.
Arm in,
and then he got it like a high wrist.
I could have sworn it was arm in,
dude. So it might have finished. No, dude. I mean, I definitely saw like him like pull the chest back, and I saw how high up the hand was on the shoulder.
Dude, this just goes to show you.
Whatever,
how much,
dude. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then that was a wrap. And then it was the.
He jumped it.
Yeah, jumped the gilly. Yeah, which is funny because jumping the gilly is. Whose thing?
Dustin
Poirier. And we're going to have another reference to Dustin Poirier here momentarily. Gets the 16-second sub. I have not did not have time to confirm, nor will I actually go through and try to confirm this. We're just going to assume fastest sub in Stout history.
Gotta be
the fastest sub. Might be the fastest fight finish.
Potentially, yeah.
Could potentially be the fastest.
Depends on the official like time, you know.
Yeah,
like
I think this one was 16 seconds. We might have had.
I think we had a 17.
A 17?
I believe.
Okay, yeah, but it was a knockout.
It was.
So this would still be the fastest submission, assuming I'm not like it's definitely faster than any of my subs. And I can't really think of anybody else who had a faster one. I think Jonas has had a faster submission than my fastest, but
yeah, no,
that's about it. So I'm pretty sure
we're crowning it.
Fastest sub in Stout PGH history. So congrats to Bryan. What a great debut. Oh, ask Bryan how many times he's been hit in his MMA career. 0. Ask how many times Bryan has been punched at in his MMA career. 0. Kicked at. 0. Moved forward towards. 0.
Also, what's his strike accuracy percentage?
100%.
What's his takedown accuracy?
100%. Sub 100%.
100% of those attempted.
Yeah, dude.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man. If you think about it, it's crazy. Like he put in a hard training camp.
He was ready to fight before he had ACL surgery.
Yeah, he was ready. Yeah, hard training camp for 16 seconds. You think about the hours and hours you put in for 16 seconds. Sometimes it almost makes you want to like let go of the sun.
Right?
You're like,
yeah.
No, dude, you're not robbing me out of this time. Like, yeah.
But have some more fun.
What a great performance. Great debut performance. Yeah. Do you want to move to Will? Or
hold on. Let's talk about one other thing. It took them forever.
It was great. So in between the end of the fight and then like bringing the fighters to the center and like announcing, 16-second submission, Bryan Hess, like blah, blah, blah. It took forever.
Yeah.
Right? And normally if it's taking like long, it's like a decision,
some sort of controversy,
close decision where they're making sure all the scorecards are in line and da. And like this doesn't require that. This is just like write down like submission.
Yeah.
16 seconds. Time up.
Super bizarre.
It took forever, and I started thinking like something weird was about to happen. I was like,
that's what I was gonna say.
Are they gonna DQ him for being too good?
A lot of times, like it'll take them a while to get to the decision if like something strange happens. So for example, like when Jake hit that guy with the knee, and it's like, was he down? Was he not down? What's the rule on it? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Jake Perry, yeah.
And like, it takes a little bit of time. The commission, they discuss with each other, hey, in this circumstance, this happens, whatever, and they have to figure it out. So
they have to figure out if it's like a DQ,
no contest,
yeah, like
is it
stuff like that.
Whatever it is. And so like this one, it's like, dude, what are you guys looking for?
Yeah,
but
it was really weird, but yeah, hey,
worked out.
All right, do we move on to like the independent thing, or you want to run?
Let's talk about that actually, because otherwise I'm going to forget. But
all right, yeah.
So he fought an independent fighter, and what that means is
he's not training out of a gym.
Right, his opponent isn't at a gym.
Like he doesn't, at least doesn't have a home base.
Right, he's not affiliated
like maybe
with the gym.
he
hops in here and there.
Like goes to this place one day, this place another day. Kind of like manages his own training.
Right.
And is not represented by like a specific.
Exactly, which I'll tell you, even that's not a good idea because
it's not a good
you're
idea.
not going to get great quality training out of that. But
you're not. Yeah.
Subject for another pod. But also, what it could mean, and especially like 10 years ago, what it meant is like,
and what I believe it meant tonight.
I agree.
Especially after that performance, he looked the part. And he must have had someone good wrap his hands, because I saw him at the rules meeting, and like he had someone did a great job wrapping his hands, and I was like, that is not an independent fighter's hand wrap.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
But like 10 years ago, and again, like you said, probably tonight, what it probably means is this dude like hits a heavy bag in his basement and like has been to a gym. You know what I mean? Like, and probably like lift some weights or whatever. And that's just like not a good way that you should go into a fight.
No. The sport has evolved so far past that.
And here's the thing is like 10 years ago, if you were super, super tough and like really about that life and pretty athletic, like you might have been able to get away with it for a couple fights. And I remember like in those days, Yankee Lake days, whatever, and being like, dude, in 5 years, this isn't like, it's not going to exist.
Yeah.
And here we are, 2024.
And like as a coach, like when I'm offered, an opponent and it's out of independent, like I have like mixed feelings, because I'm like, all right, so typically, excuse me, if we get offered an opponent that's an independent, it's incredibly rare. I have not had it come across my desk where this is for like one of my seasoned fighters. Right. Like this is not like, oh, like I've got like a 4-1 fighter, right? No, hey, there goes this 3-2 independent, right? Like most independents are 0-0, 0-1. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
You know, it's very rare. So it's typically for one of my debuters, right? And I always like kind of like balance it, and I'm like, oh man, like, you know, well, it's an independent fighter, so we definitely have an advantage in the fact that, well, we actually train,
right?
With like skill and technique and strategy and all that good stuff. And they don't, so I believe we'll have an advantage here. And it's nice to start off on a win. You know, it's good for like motivation and morale and confidence and like affirmation, things like that. So I really like for fighters to start their career on a win. Although starting it on a loss does not mean anything. Nope. You know, we've had some of our best fighters start off on a loss.
Yep.
And so I'm like, oh, this is great because I believe we're going to have an advantage here, and this is an area where I want you to have an advantage. Where somewhere down the line, I might not want you to have an advantage because we might need to be testing you for future development. And then you weigh that with who's likely to miss weight, who's likely to not show up, who's likely to pull out, and like an independent fighter, that likelihood goes way up. So you're like, we are taking a gamble here, right?
Yep.
There's risk and reward.
Exactly.
You know? So we took the gamble. It worked out as far as the fight's concerned, but it almost didn't.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't make weight, right? Had Bryan officially weighed in, the fight would have been off. Luckily, Bryan was able to, make the adjustment and, like, fill himself up so that way he would be over 155. Right. Yeah, so, like, that's the risk you take, and sometimes it's just, like, not worth taking it, but, man, I took it. I was like, yeah,
it worked out.
Yeah.
And it makes for a great story because now he's ranked as a welterweight.
Yeah, dude, it's hilarious. It's very hilarious. I love it. Yeah, so that's some pros and cons of independent fighting, and we don't recommend that you go pursuing that. Like, dude, there's tons of MMA gyms around. No matter where you are.
I was going to say, you'd be better off going to, like, a not great quality gym than not training.
Yeah.
Like... At least you'll get some of the basics down. At least you have someone in your corner who knows what they're talking about.
I mean, if you just think about like how long it takes you, like if you were to like be like, I want to fight out of Stout PGH, they seem like they're pretty reputable. Their fighters seem pretty good. Seems like they have it together. Like they have a good idea on a plan on how to do this, with a level of success. You're going to be with us likely for well over a year before we're like, okay, you're ready to fight. But yet you have people who are like, never done it before, but I'll go compete.
Right.
It's like crazy, right? You wouldn't even be allowed an open mat yet.
Yeah.
If you were at our gym, you'd be in it. You'd be in fundamentals classes right now. You haven't even taken your first class. Like, what are you doing?
And what's crazy is like
you're gonna actually step into this cage. You're gonna actually go through with getting your blood work done, getting your medicals done.
Yeah.
Paying for your licenses.
And doing like a dangerous sport.
Dude, think about this. Like to fight, and it costs money to fight.
Yeah.
Right? Like you got your blood work done. That's a minimum of $100. Right? And then 40 for your state license, 20 for your national license. So you're talking like you're at least paying $160 to get your medicals and licensing done for an Ohio fight. If it's a PA fight, you need a physical as well. So you're putting money out. Like, you should have spent that money on a gym membership.
Dude, not only that, but like, okay, how about this, Mike? Would you, at your level of pickleball, would you go enter a tournament right now?
No, I wouldn't.
And I'm
afraid to play with strangers.
Right. And
I'm pretty good.
You're good.
But I'm afraid to play with strangers just because like I don't know how well I know all the rules, and I wouldn't want to be like, oh, I didn't know that.
Right, exactly. Okay, so you wouldn't do that. And what's the risk of you losing at pickleball?
Nothing.
No exactly. Risk. And I wouldn't do that either. And yet here's someone who's like, hey, I'm going to do something where at the very least, like tonight, kid got bloodied up and choked out.
Yeah, he got bloodied up and choked out.
But like, you could get hurt real badly,
Oh, yeah.
Like, imagine if we were like, Bryan, let the ghillie go, stand back up.
Imagine if it was an arm lock and not a guillotine.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And you're not experienced enough to know that, like, hey, this doesn't hurt. Snap! Yeah. Oh, now it hurts. Too late. Now I tap. Oh, it's too late. Your arm snapped.
Long story short, if you're thinking about taking a fight, get proper training.
Get proper training. All right. Dustin Poirier reference number 2.
So, we get Will warmed up. Time to walk out. We get down to the cage, and I'm like, yo, Mike, this is a great walkout song. And he's like, dude, are you an idiot? Do you not know whose walkout song this is?
Yeah, dude, it's Dustin.
It was Dustin's, dude.
Pay the cost to be the boss.
Yup. Phenomenal song, right?
Great walkout song.
So we're sitting there.
So hold on. I grease him up. Boom, he's in. Or we slide around the cage to our corner seats. We sit down. Here goes the thing. Like the way the corner seats were situated for this, there was a giant ring post like right in front of us. So like we're like you're leaning to the right to see around it. I'm leaning to the left to see around it. Right? It was, could be better.
Right. So we're talking about this song, and then they start announcing the opponent coming in, and I'm like, all right, time to pay attention.
Okay. Now, like enough of our side quest chit chat.
Right.
Like, all right, let's now is when I should be like saying some words of like affirmation to Will. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
hey, like stay long, stay fast.
And we've been talking
that,
for like
blah.
10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like not a long conversation.
So I go to like reach to the cage to like start like, and at this point in time, this is typically when the fighter will make it to the corner, right? They do like a little lap or something.
So we both look up. And
I can't find him.
And I'm like, oh, he must be behind this pad.
Yeah.
Reach all the way around. He's not there.
Yeah, no, dude, he's just not in the cage. And I'm like starting to second guess my eyesight. Right? I'm like looking across. I'm like looking around. I'm like scanning the cage. It's not a big cage.
Opponent's getting greased.
Yeah, it's not a big cage. I'm looking around it like multiple times.
Yeah.
Like you guys know what a cage. Like you can't miss anything that's in it. And he's not in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what could possibly be happening? I am full freak out mode.
Yeah.
So I run around the corner and I see him down the walkout ramp. And I'm like,
what's going on?
What are you doing? And he was like, I forgot my cup. I've never. So I've never had a fighter make it ringside, no cup. I've had one fighter at a fight, forgot my cup, and I ran and was maybe in the hole. Right. And I ran to a Walmart and made it back in time with a cup. Yeah. But I've never. I've been in the sport since 2007. Never. He forgot his cup. He had to run to the back.
Will's the first one.
Put his cup in.
And then come in after his opponent.
Yeah, his opponent. And he's got to stand there behind his opponent, real awkward. He's just like trying to, and it's super respectful though. Like he was he was like, I'm gonna leave 10 foot.
Right.
He left 10 foot. He stood there like hands crossed, like moving back and forth to the guy's music,
just smiling at us.
Like I can't believe I forgot my cup. It's crazy. Opponent goes in. He comes in. Boom. So. Whatever, everything's fine now. Fight's about to start. Boom. Fighter, you ready? Fighter, you ready? And fight. They go. They touch gloves. Pause. Fight off. Door's not closed. Cage door wouldn't latch or something. I don't know.
So they touch gloves and they're about to fight for 2 to 3 seconds, and then boom, they stop it. Right, stop it for 15 seconds. So already there's a little weird lull. Right, and I'm like, all right, cool. Let's get this weirdness behind us. Boom, they start fighting.
Right.
And Will looks phenomenal.
It's good. He's cracking. Opponent is certainly capable.
Oh, yeah.
Opponent is certainly capable. This was not a situation,
right.
He was not blown through this dude the way Bryan blew.
This guy was not an independent fighter.
No, this dude trained, I don't know what gym he trained out of.
Or whatever. Either way, he had training.
But he trained out of gym. Also, this was his third fight. He was 1-1, as was Will at time of fight. But
he's presenting threats.
Yeah. This kid knows what's going on.
Exactly.
Right? This is going to be a good fight.
But Will is just blocking punches, sliding out of the way, getting inside, landing, and popping out.
The speed in which Will would be out and back in, because the dude had 4 inches of reach on him.
Right.
4 inches, and Will's boop, right out of range, and then right in with heat.
Yeah, dude.
Cracking, right?
Hitting hard.
Just winning these
Which
exchanges.
was fantastic, because that's exactly, part of that is exactly what we worked on for the last, however many months in advanced classes.
Yeah.
And Will was doing that, which I love seeing.
Speaking of Will, Will hits so hard.
Yeah.
He hits so hard. And, it makes him more of a game time fighter than, a practice player.
Because he's also a great teammate.
So, yeah, he's a sought-after sparring partner. He's so, and we see it as coaches. We see it. First off, we immediately know, when you spar, who's a good training partner, right? It's not hard for us. We've got a lot of experience. It's not hard for us to tell, if you're a good training partner or if you're not. Other than that, you can tell if you don't have the acumen to know that, you can tell by like who's getting asked for rounds, right? And he's in high demand to get rounds with because he's got skill and he's safe.
Controlled.
Super controlled and safe, and he has great rounds. But because he's a good partner, he's not cracking you in practice. Therefore, you might be getting some things going that likely wouldn't be getting going in an actual contest, because in that actual contest, that punch that just kind of moved your head a little bit is going to snap on you. You know, he's got some heat. He cracks. So he's cracking this dude. And
dude, he's moving so well and confident too. Which actually, hold on, can I talk about his confidence real quick?
Yeah.
So I spoke with him on Friday night while he was like cutting weight and stuff. And so he was training with Brody a lot leading up to this fight because he knew his opponent was tall. And he was like, yeah, man, you know, like I was training with Brody and like he was kind of beating me, striking, and like I was feeling a little bad about myself. And I was like, dude, you do realize like Brody is way better than anyone you'll ever fight in amateurs. And also this kid's what, like 6'2"? Brody's like, he says 6'3". This kid might be 6'4". Yeah. Like, he's huge, you know? Yeah. I was like, dude, you should be. He was like, yeah, I am super confident now because like that's what I realized. And I was like, dude, that's phenomenal. So and this confidence is coming. Like you can just tell from the way he's moving in that fight that he's confident and he like believes in his striking, as he should, because it looked
as
great.
he should.
So this is like 30 seconds of actual fight.
So he's cracking, gets the dude takes a shot, boom, throws a ghillie on.
No, bro, we are. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, this is pre-eye poke.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, you're right.
Dude takes a shot, throws a ghillie on, gets the head tucked, keeps it standing. Thankfully, doesn't jump it. I'm like, don't jump this ghillie. So anyhow, uses it, clears off, back to striking, crack. He's winning these exchanges. The other guy is in them, but it's not
close.
It's not close. Right? And then Will gets poked in the eye. Opponent. Pretty bad.
Yeah.
Opponent very definitely accidental.
Oh yeah.
Opponent very like graciously is like, yeah, I poked this dude in the eye.
He's like, I realized what I did. Backs up.
Ref's like,
he's like, what's going on?
What's up? And Will's like doing like the whole eye rub thing, and the opponent's like, hey, I poked him in the eye, and the ref's still just like that. And I'm like, hey man, the guy winning the fight's not gonna fake an eye poke.
Yeah, dude. Like,
you know, like you see this dude kicking this other dude's ass. He's loving that. He doesn't want to be poked in the eye to stop, right? He's not faking this eye poke to like get out of something.
Right.
So they bring the doctor in. Doctor looks at his eye, clears up the vision. Boom, they're back at it. Goes scrapping. This makes the fight seem a lot longer than it is because we've had the stoppage of the door. We now have the stoppage of the eye poke. Will gets it cracking again. Gets double unders body lock, gets a takedown, takes it to half guard.
Lands a little bit of ground and pound.
Starts to stand, and his opponent fires on an ankle lock.
Jumped on it hard.
Jumped on that ankle lock, brought Will to the mat with it. He's attacking a straight ankle lock low side.
Also important too, you and I are screaming, mostly you at this point, screaming like what to do in this position, but it's really loud in there. And I'm not sure that Will could hear what we were saying.
Right. I think ultimately he did. I remember him like looking at me and like eye contact, like what? Okay. And right, so like it's just a straight ankle lock. So I'm like, okay, put your foot in the boot, right? You know, you want flexion in the foot because the extension of the foot's where you're gonna start to get the pops on the top of the foot there. But even though I'm like, I don't want to be like too crazy with it or whatever, but like I'm gonna be like, don't tap to that shit, bro. Yeah. Like tap after that pops.
Right.
I don't want no taps because I thought my foot was gonna lit it. Like it's like that. You're gonna walk out of here and you can train next week. Like it's gonna pop some stuff off the top of your foot.
I agree with that as someone who has had a pretty bad injury from that exact submission, but that's a story for a different time. So he's in it, but he he defends well. He puts his foot in a safe spot to where he's not going to get finished with the ankle lock, but he's stuck in this leg entanglement, right? And the opponent is committed to attacking this ankle lock that is no longer in a finishing threat position, right? It is now in a safe position, but he Maintains the leg entanglement, and Will just starts hammer fisting. Whack, whack, whack. And he flashed the guy. The guy flashes out. So wins by TKO. Crowd starts booing. Yeah, because they're like, they don't understand like why it's a TKO. Because the opponent's like, what? Because he was just flashed out, you know.
But there's like two things. First off, this is an amateur. First off, even if it's a pro fight, if you go flash out, like, even for a second, you're going to come back a little confused, which makes sense. But I was like, what? Like, what? Like, why are you stop? Like, but if you get flashed out, you get flashed out. That's all there is to it. And a lot of times you don't know. Like, Will was like, yeah, dude, he went like, ugh, and then came back, And like, you can't do that. You're out. But even beyond that, you can't accept you have to defend yourself. You can't accept. It's like explicitly said in the rules meeting that you must defend yourself, right? You can't just be like, I'm just gonna eat these punches.
And not only that, but it's like, if that wasn't how the sport worked, then you would have to wait for someone to go out fully. There's some tough dudes out there. Do you remember? Now I'm forgetting who he fought. Jose Aldo fought a dude, and he was getting ground and pounded for, no lie, like 90 seconds with zero defense.
I do not recall.
Man, it was bad.
WEC or UFC?
No, UFC. It was like relatively recent, last couple of years or something.
Oh, okay.
And like just getting bombed on and like barely moving and like barely conscious. And it's like, dude, like, you don't need to have that happen. Like, he's not coming back from this.
Right,
And like, are you just telling me that like every fight, especially amateur fights, you need to wait until someone is completely unconscious for more than a couple of seconds before you stop the fight? Like, no, clearly if you stop defending and you're just eating punches, even if you're okay, they're going to stop the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
as they should. So he wins by TKO. I think the total time ended up being 40-something seconds, 46 seconds. And I was like, man, it seemed like a lot longer because there was a lot of the stoppages in there. And Will handled the crowd great. Right?
Oh, dude,
like,
fantastic.
You know what I mean?
Gets up smiling.
Away game.
Like, yeah,
away game, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think the crowd was mad at him. They were mad at the referee. And it was just like they're not as educated as to what's going on in this amateur fight. First off, like, you guys aren't going to see that this dude like went out for a second. I didn't see it, right? Because the back of his head was to us, so I didn't see it. So like when the ref tells you, "Oh, this is what happened," then that's what happened. They're there looking at it.
Also, I think that like MMA fans are finally at the point where they are aware leg locks exist, but they're still like this weird, mysterious thing. So like you and I can look at it and be like, "Oh, look, it's not a threat anymore." You know what I mean? But they see him in that like Ashi position, like with his arm around his leg, and they're like, "Well, it's a leg lock." You know what I mean? So they're like, he's still going for like a finish. Like, why did they stop it? Like they think that there's some offense there. It's like, there's not in that position. You know? So like, it's just an education level issue with the crowd, and like, I wish that more,
Yeah, that's what you're gonna have though. That's part of it. I mean, it's definitely a lot better than it was several years ago.
For sure.
So we're moving in the right direction on that. But yeah, two great fights, two good fighters. You know what I mean? What
was the total fight time? Like a minute?
So that'd be a minute 2.
Yeah.
A minute 2 seconds. Definitely a really good night. And you got to be appreciative of those ones because you got to take the goods with the bads, and like, you know what I mean. If you're in this for the long haul, like we are, like career coaches here, like I'll be coaching forever, right? I know we're gonna be on the other end of that sometimes. Like, you know what I mean. The hope is to be on the right end most of the time. But if you're going to be challenging yourself, you're going to be challenging your fighters, you're going to take some L's as well. So you got to know what it's like to be on the other side.
So I very much appreciate this night.
Yeah, for sure. And dude, we were fight number 2 and fight number 5.
Dude, yeah.
Bro, so nice. Fights started at 7. They started like on time, which was cool.
Dude, you know what else is cool
too?
We
got out of there.
The
what
commission.
Time did you leave? Like
so most fights start at 7, right?
Yeah.
The commission usually tells you to be there at 5. Now, realistically, even if you're like the first fight, you're not doing anything with your fighter to get warm or whatever till 6. So what was cool was they were like, hey, if you're already licensed, show up at 5:30. We show up at 5:30, kind of get acquainted, start wrapping hands slowly, get warm, and then we're into it. You know what I mean? So it was like run pretty well.
Yeah.
And then we were done at what, like, I don't know, 8:39?
No, way before. I mean, dude, we got...
That's right. It was light.
It was light outside when we left. I feel like we left at 8.
Yeah.
Like 8 something. Like early 8.
Right.
Yeah. So, man, you got to love that. And in and out, especially because we had a 4-hour drive round trip, 2 there, 2 back.
And that's what allowed us to
do this tonight. I mean, we were planning on doing this tonight anyhow, so we didn't have to do it tomorrow morning when you guys will get this, right? So, yeah, another good night. You got anything else to add on the night?
Nah, dude, all things good.
All things good. All right, cool. So that was a great episode of Listen to Your Coaches. Big Stout PGH recap. Congratulations to Bryan and Will on their victories. Look forward to more fights out of them moving forward. Probably quick turnarounds as neither is damaged. I know Will's got a little vacation coming up, but I think we can push him back in September.
No
I like
problem.
to see both these guys back in September.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. We'll catch you guys next time.